Hi everybody. So welcome to the Loom program. What I'm going to start doing is I'm going to start posting lessons online using this program that helps me record the screen on my computer so I can help you with any problems that you might have, or you can come back to this at any point and look this over for yourself. So the first thing I want to talk about is last week's assignment on the mid-chapter checkpoint for Go Math. This is chapter 13. Starts on page 537 and it goes all the way into 538. So my goal here is not to give you the answers. My goal here is to set you on the right path to find the answers if you are struggling. So for the vocabulary here, number 1 says a square unit that is 1 unit wide and 1 unit long is a blank. And you have 5 choices here. So you will have to find the correct one. I'm going to read through them and then I will go back to the pages in the lesson that you would need to find your answers. Question number 2 says the blank of a two-dimensional figure can be any side. Number 3, a set of symbols that expresses a mathematical rule is called a blank. And number 4, the blank is the distance around a shape. And I don't know if you've noticed, but they also will tell you here that this answer can be found on page 529, as will this one. This one is on page 526 and 525. So I am going to scroll out here, zoom out, and I'm going to go to lesson 1 on perimeter, which should give us, what do you know, the definition of perimeter. So if you have this in questions 1 to 4, go ahead and fill that in. I'm not going to tell you which one. You're more than capable of doing that on your own. So I'm going to come back. I'm going to go to lesson. Actually, I think I'm going to turn the page. So next page, we have another yellow word that is highlighted in yellow in your book. This will help you with another question that has to do with formula and what a formula is. And I'm just going to scroll back through here. And we get to lesson 13.2. And we have several definitions here, all of which are important. You have base, which will be abbreviated to the letter B, and height, which is abbreviated to letter H. You can read what those two are. You have the area, a definition for area, and then this very important definition of square unit. Now, if you take a look at this picture down here where the one square is 1 unit by 1 unit by 1 unit by 1 unit, that is very important to understanding what a square unit of measurement is. Read this over. If you haven't, it will make a lot more sense. It looks like this is just an extension. This is 13.3. And we're back to the mid-chapter checkpoint. So like I said, my goal here is not to give you the answers. My goal is to help you find the answers and you make your own decisions. But I have a feeling that will help you quite a bit. So we come down here to the next set from numbers 5 to 7 that have to do with finding perimeter. So the directions say find the perimeter and area of the rectangle or the square. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to snip and sketch this page, which allows me to actually then write on my screen. Now it does get a little messy, but we should do fine. So the first thing I want you to remember is that when we are finding perimeter and area, there are 2 formulas you need to keep in mind. So perimeter is going to be the addition of all the sides, or in the case of number 5 here, this is a square, so perimeter here would equal 4 times one of the sides, okay? And by one of the sides, I mean this 13, because once you have 13 here and 13 here, all of your sides are going to be 13, which means that this is the square. So for the perimeter, I'm going to have on my side here 13 times 4. And when you get this answer, you will have your perimeter. And perimeter is pretty universally marked with the letter P. P for perimeter. So I'm going to switch my color, and we're going to move on to area. So area is always base times height. Now your base can really be any side. It's just that your height and your base need to come together, in this case at a perpendicular point on the square or rectangle. So I'm going to call my 13 on the top my base, and I'm going to call my 13 on the side my height. So in order to find this square's area, I need to do 13 times 13. So in a little bit of workspace over here, I'm going to say 13 times 13, and then I'm going to do the multiplication. So make sure that you don't forget any of your multiplication rules for 2-digit by 2-digit multiplication. This one's not too bad. If you think about what 12 times 12 is, which most of you know, you can get into the right area for what 13 times 13 would be. All right. Number 6 works in much the same way. So I'm going to go through this one a little faster. Although this is a rectangle now, I'm going to consider the 21 my base and the 3 my height. I do want to try to stay consistent with colors, so I'm going to be doing perimeter in black and area in blue. So perimeter here is going to be 2 times 21. I'm going to use the formula. So I have 21 top and bottom. So if this is 21 up top, it has to be 21 on the bottom, or we don't have a rectangle. Same thing with the height. If this is 3, this also must be 3. So we're going to do 2 times 21 plus 2 times 3. Now this is not the only way to do this. You could just add all the sides. I do want to encourage you to use the formula because this is going to come up later in your math careers. All right, so this will be 2 times 21, and this answer, and then 2 times 3, and you would simply add those answers when you're done. So whatever you get here, so this is in line, this is a line. I'm going to do this one out actually. So 2 times 1 is 2, 2 times 2 is 4, so we have 42 plus 12, and 42 plus 12 will give us 54. Actually, I think I'm just going to work this one out. So we have 54 feet. So our perimeter, let's fill up myself a little bit more room. Our perimeter for number 6 is 54 feet. Now, I am running out of space here, so make sure you get this down or just rewind this if you want to see more, because I'm going to erase out pretty much everything except my answer at the bottom. Clean it up a little bit. Okay, moving on to area. So area is always base times the height. Now here's why they don't put all the numbers in. Because you really only need the 21 and the 3 to get all of the information you need. So now what we're going to have here is 21 times 3 will equal our area. So 3 times 1 is 3, 3 times 2 is 6, and our area will be equal to 63 feet squared. Now this little 2 is super important because it is literally counting the squares in here. If I were to make 21 cuts, it won't even let me, and then divide this by 3 lines, and this is going to get messy here, but I would literally be cutting this rectangle into 21 individual squares. So 63 feet squared is your actual area. I'm just going to, whoops, that's not what I want. I'm just going to clean this up a little bit. Too messy. All right, back to our problem. So that is all of question 6. So moving on to question 7, where we're finding perimeter. Again, here, your choice of how you want to find your perimeter, just so you know, if 8 is on the top here, and we're going to consider this our base, then 15 on the side is going to be our height. 8 would be repeated at the bottom and 15 on the side. So for this, I would do 15 times 2. That answer, and let me clean this up a little bit here. Plus, so our 15 times each other, and then 8 times 2. So I have 2 8s here. I'm going to just multiply that by 2. I'm going to get 16 and 30. And your final answer for perimeter would be 30 plus 16. So area is base times height. So I'm going to take my 8 and my 15, and I'm simply going to multiply them. And my area will be 15 times 8. And whatever that answer is, please remember that it will be in inches squared. That's really, 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 really important for area. Your perimeter is in feet. It is basically the fence to the grass that area is. So if I have a grassy yard, the grass is my area, and the fence around that area would be the perimeter. So feet, no to it up top. Oh, sorry. I'm going to backtrack that. It's not feet this time, it's inches. Same idea. Just, come on, let me write. Just inches. You got to keep your measurements. So you just check your problem. So perimeter is in inches, and area for question 7 is in inches squared. So you can come back to this at any point if you want to take a look at it some more. I'm going to scroll down here just a little bit to take a look at questions 8, 9, and 10. And it says to find the area of the combined rectangle. So they're going to put all of the skills that they wanted you to show in the 3 questions that we just finished in 7, 6, and 5. And now in 8, 9, and 10, they want you to combine. But the good news is here, we are only finding the area. So I'm going to stick with my blue for area right now. And now here's where they try to get a little tricky. They give you the little things like this 2 over here. So what I'm going to do is I'm basically going to draw a line so I have my large rectangle 1 and a very small rectangle 2. So the area for rectangle 1 is going to be 10 because this is the side. And look how they give you this nice base here of 18. They tell you that this is 18 across the bottom, but this top is 20. So you know that that extra little bit comes over here in this other rectangle, which we'll get to in a minute. So I'm going to put a dark blue around the rectangle I'm looking at right now. This rectangle has a height of 10 and a base of 18. So we're going to have 18 times 10 going to be our first area. And if you remember how to do this, where you bring down your 0, 8 times 1 is 8, and 1 times 1 is 1. So our area for this first rectangle is 180 yards squared. Now we're going to take a look at the second triangle, and I'm again going to pick a specific color to highlight this triangle. So I'm going to do a little math here. If I know this entire section from edge to edge is 20, and I know from the first rectangle that that point was 18, then this teeny tiny bit is going to be the additional 2. So this is not 20 plus 2, this is like the 18 plus 2 down here. So I know that this has, I'm going to have to clean this up now, this little part in here, and that 2 is to represent the triangle, not necessarily the shape. So it tells me here at the bottom that it's 2. So if this little piece is 2, then this little piece is 2. And then that's all, pretty much all I need. I have a base, I have a height, and my area for the second triangle rectangle is 5 times 2, which is 10. So this one is 10 yards squared. So then my final total becomes 190 yards squared. And that is the final answer. There's a lot to keep straight. It's testing your neatness. It's testing your ability to stay focused on problems. It is not necessarily hard. So moving on to question number 9. Switch back to blue. So here you may divide this into whichever shapes you like. I'm going to try to keep my 8 uncut, meaning I'm going to cut here and here. So now I have 8 across the top. I was able to maintain this 8, and I'm going to call this rectangle 1, rectangle 2, and rectangle 3, just to make things easier. Hopefully. So in rectangle 1, I have a base of 2, and it's telling me that the entire distance here is 5. Well, I don't need 5. But the other bit of information I do need is right here where it's telling me that this inside portion up to the line is 3. That's the part I need. So my small rectangle here becomes 2 by 3. This one. Because this part up to here is only 3, and that makes this smaller part 2. We'll get to that later. So for this small part, I'm going to use this inside 3 and this bottom here for 2, and that is going to give me 6 meters squared, because what I do here is 3 times 2, and that is 6. So rectangle 1, 6 meters squared. Rectangle 2, let's switch it to red. So for rectangle 2 here, because of the bit of math we did here where this entire section is 5, I now only need this part. If this section down here was 3, that means that the remaining section must be 2, because 2 plus 3 is 5. Now, like I said, I wanted to keep that 8 intact. So what I get now is 8 times 2 equals 16 meters squared. So I'm going to come down here to my answer line, and I'm just going to add it into the bottom. That's rectangle number 2. I have to find another color. Go to green. Rectangle number 3. Well, thank goodness, rectangle number 3 looks just like rectangle number 1. So I have a 3 here for the side length and a 2 at the bottom. So this again becomes 3 times 2 equals 6. Add it to the bottom. And now I have 6 plus 16 plus 6. So that is going to give us a grand total of 28 yards. Ooh! I was going to get it without any mistakes. Meters squared. It's a lot of computation work. It is not necessarily hard. So my tip to you guys is to try to keep as many numbers intact, like I did the 8 up here. I'm going to set you up for question 10, but I'm not going to work it out for you. I'm going to come back to black here. Like I said, let's try to keep this 10 from getting cut apart. I think the natural spot here would be to cut this rectangle here. And so you have one large rectangle and the second one much smaller. Using the information, this one should be pretty easy for the main rectangle on the top. The bottom, you will need to use some other information down here. Once you have the area of both rectangles 1 and 2, then you simply add your totals to find the combined area of the rectangle. All right, moving on. I'm going to close this screen out and go snip and sketch the next part. So it looks like we are already on to the following page, which makes this pretty short. All right, question 11. So I'm going to zoom in a little bit and take a quick screenshot here so I can write on my book. So question 11 says, which figure has the greatest perimeter? Well, we're going to have to go back to what is perimeter. Perimeter is 2 times your length plus 2 times your height. With height, length, so pretty much the same. So, I can't remember if they use L and W right now. They might have used a W for one of these. I'm going to swap it for a W right now. It totally doesn't matter, just so long as you are getting each side. So, let's go to figure A. 3 and 5. I know that there's another 3 here and another 5 here. This is all addition. I'm going to add all my sides. That's one method. I particularly like this method because I see 5 and 5 and I know that that is 10 and 3 is 6 and I know that 10 and 6 make 16. So that is a different route to go. I want to keep you focused on this formula because it is helpful. Now, figure B, I'm going to use the formula for here. So I'm going to say 2 times my 6 plus 2 times 3 will give you the perimeter here. I kind of like this one where I can put the total perimeter on the inside. Figure C, I hope you take notice when each side is the same. This is a square. So the perimeter for this one would just be 4 times 4, or you could add 4 plus 4 plus 4 plus 4, because that would be all of its sides. Figure D is back to a very standard rectangle. I would again encourage you to try the formula 2 times 4 plus 2 times 3, and that will give you your total perimeter. The question asks for which figure has the greatest perimeter, so your answer will be figure A, figure B, figure C, or figure D. I have not worked them out. Just by looking at them, I can eliminate a couple, but I'm not going any farther in this question. It is up to you to make your final choices on here. So because I only shot one question here, I'm going to close this out. Scroll down to question number 12, and we're going to take a look at what they're asking here. All right. Question 12. Which figure has an area of 108 square centimeters? All right. So what's important here is I'm looking for 108 square centimeters, which looks like this when you write it. You'll often hear me say centimeters squared. I don't think it really matters. Just know that they are interchangeable. Okay, figure A, 13 and 6. Well, what is the formula for area? So up here at the top, I'm just going to give myself a little reminder that area means base times height. So if 13 is my base and 6 is my height, this figure A is 13 times 6. And like I said, on questions like this, I like to leave my answer in the rectangle I'm working in, just so that I remember what its total area is. So if 13 times 6 is 108, then you have found your answer. Moving on to question letter B, figure B here is 11 and 11. So this is actually a square. You'll have a different formula for that next year. But right now, I'm looking for the answer for 11 times 11. If that happens to be 108, then you would have your right answer. Over here, we have 9 and 12 for figure C. So the question here for 9 would be, what is 12 times 9? Over here, you have 38 and 16, which is rather large. And I think with some common sense here, you might be able to eliminate figure D as being just those numbers are just too big to give me an answer of 108. So good luck on this question. Again, I'm not looking for a numbered answer here. I'm looking for words. So is figure A 108 square centimeters, or is it figure B, figure C, or figure D? So down here at the bottom, your answer would be figure, and then you fill in which one it is. Okay, moving on. Let's go ahead and close this little screen out and focus on what I believe is our last question. Yay! So here's our snip and sketch. Let's stretch out. Which of the combined rectangles has an area of 40 square feet? So again, putting all of our skills together here. We are looking for area, and we are looking for a specific square feet of 40. So let's take a look at figure A. Again, when it comes to combined rectangles, I try to keep my rectangles, their numbers, as complete as possible, whenever possible. So I would cut this rectangle here and here to make a large rectangle, a large rectangle here, a small rectangle here, and a small one here, which potentially actually these rectangles, oh goodness, I need to erase that these last two could potentially be squares. They look very square to me. Anyway, you would need to find the area for all three, add them, and if this figure A turns out to have a square footage of 40, then you have found your correct answer. Down here to figure B, it really is up to you. It looks like there's not much difference in how we would cut this, but again, I would probably do this and end up with rectangle 1, rectangle 2, and rectangle 3. Just be careful of when you get these shorter signs that this 5 has to do with this line, and this 5 has to do with this line. So with the knowledge of this, it will help you when you need to find a missing bit of information here for rectangle 2. You know the total length of this line is 7, and you know you've already used 5. It only leaves a specific amount to be your base down here. So you'd have to do all of your area. If this area, if all the areas for rectangles 1, 2, and 3 equals 40, then figure B is your answer. All right, over here, I would do this and end up with 1 and 2. Find your area of each, and then see what that leaves you. Same thing over here. I would cut this here, which again makes this top up here to be a square. In fact, it is, because it's 3 and 3. So you have a square and a larger rectangle underneath. When you find which figure has a combined area of 40 square feet, well, then you have your answer. And again, the answer at the bottom would be figure A, figure B, figure C, or figure D, and not numbered. So, all right. Well, I hope this helps you. We're at the end of the mid-chapter checkpoint. I have already put this into Think Central as an assignment for you. I do highly recommend that you do it in the book before you go online. I believe the questions are the same. Don't quote me on that. The student version, once I give an assignment, they can change some of the questions to be very similar. But this will be an assignment due in Think Central. All right, guys. Well, have a great afternoon here. It's Sunday. This is what I do on my Sundays now. And I look forward to talking with you guys later. So have a great afternoon. Bye-bye.